Scott Fitzgerald defeats Ted Cheeseman on a 12-round unanimous decision. Two scorecards of 116, 113, and one scorecard of 115, 113. Now, I expected Fitzgerald to win this fight. I thought he'd win it on points. But it definitely, for the first half, was not the fight I was expecting. Okay? Ted Cheeseman, we all know, we've seen enough of his fights. He relies a lot on nip, grip, fitness, and strength. Okay? And we've seen that work against some lower level guys. We've seen it work against guys at British level like Cassini Byfield. Once he stepped up to European level, it really didn't work. And when he came back down to domestic level against well-schooled boxers like Kieran Conroy, again, it didn't work. So, having all that taken into consideration, knowing that's kind of how Ted Cheeseman fights, you would imagine, or at least I imagined, that it would be fairly routine for Scott Fitzgerald that he'll be hitting a target with a leaky defence. Well, that's not how it started. Ted Cheeseman came out boxing on the back foot, boxing very well to be fair, doing some good in and out movement, some good little feints, some good upper body movement. Definitely was good stuff from Ted Cheeseman. He was keeping his hands very high because he's a man this year who's taken a hell of a lot of punches. Hell of a lot of punches. He's only 24 years old. So he was very wary of defence early on. Now, the Sky commentary team were really blowing smoke up Ted Cheeseman's arse. They were saying, this is fantastic boxing, this is amazing, it's not the fight we expected, and it wasn't. It wasn't the fight we expected. But watching it, I always got the impression that Fitzgerald was still in control. He seemed like, okay, Cheeseman's boxing the back foot. He is catching me with a few jabs here and there. But to be fair, Cheeseman, he wasn't landing much on Fitzgerald. Like, he was catching him with a few jabs here and there. Maybe the odd uppercut, but it was never anything, drastic. You never really saw Fitzgerald in any kind of bother. And one thing I was noticing was that early on, although Fitzgerald was, he was getting outboxed in some of them rounds, he was landing some body shots. He was consistently landing these body shots now and again on Ted Cheeseman. And I was thinking in my head, I was like, them body shots, they look painful, they look sore, they look heavy. If Ted Cheeseman is not used to fighting like this, and maybe he's not conditioned to fight like this, that's going to tell later on in the fight. You take the legs away. And that's exactly what happened. Because come the 8th, 9th round, that was when Cheeseman really started to slow down. And that was when he started engaging Fitzgerald more. Scott Fitzgerald, that was the fight he wanted. And we really got a sense of what would have happened if it was the Cheeseman who fought Sergio Garcia. He probably would have got stopped. Because late on in the fight, to be fair, Cheeseman was fatigued late on in the fight. Fitzgerald wasn't. Because the fight at the start wasn't fought at a frantic pace. So the person who was exerting the most energy was Cheeseman. He was boxing on the back foot. He was up on his toes. He was taking body shots. Whereas Fitzgerald wasn't really doing much. And what he was doing wasn't taking a drastic amount of energy out of him. So late on in the fight, when Cheeseman got tired, Fitzgerald wasn't. And he put it on. He really went for it. He put it on Cheeseman hard. And you saw Cheeseman really kind of let them cracks in his defence show again. He was taking a lot of body shots, was taking some good uppercuts. And there was a few times where Fitzgerald missed with certain right hands, maybe the odd hook. And you just thought, oh, if that had landed, Cheeseman be on the floor. So Ted Cheeseman, late on in the fight, the flaws really showed. And I wasn't scoring the fight, but my consensus was that it was close. Certainly, I wouldn't have complained if Cheeseman got the decision. But personally, I think that there was enough early rounds that you could have given to Scott Fitzgerald that it's fair enough that he won. I thought from rounds 9 to 12, Fitzgerald won every round. So that's 4 rounds. And I thought Fitzgerald won the first, the second, and you could possibly give him a share of the fifth. So, to be fair, I thought Fitzgerald, the right guy, won. It was a close competitive fight. There was certainly no robbery. I've seen a few people say online before the cards were read out that if this isn't a Fitzgerald fight, it's a robbery. No. It was a close fight, competitive fight. But definitely the right man won. And Ted Cheeseman, Jesus, for such a promising end to 2018, he's really had a shocker in 2019. He's had 3 fights, he hasn't won 1. He's lost badly against Garcia. He had a very controversial decision. Although, to be fair, I thought he won when he fought Kieran Conroy. I thought he won that fight. He had a draw with that. And now he's faced Scott Fitzgerald and lost. So it seems that British level is really... I don't want to sound bad, but it does seem as though that is Ted Cheeseman's level now at the minute, is British level. Because, European level, it's proven to be a couple of steps above British level. As for Scott Fitzgerald, People are saying that he's going to have a rematch with Anthony Fowler. The first fight was good, but Fowler, I mean, Anthony Fowler really, he's not much better than these guys. If that fight happens, I would make Fitzgerald favourite. I think he'd probably beat him again, probably more convinced, probably stop him this time because he's got extra time. And we've seen that Fowler's not exactly... Fowler has loads of flaws. That's why I don't understand why Sky really do back him so much. Because if you ever watch Anthony Fowler fight, his footwork is all over the place. His chin's up in the air. Some of the punches he throws are very crude. He's very leaky defense. I mean, the guy, I don't see anything that would even suggest that he is British, not least European level. So why Eddie Hearn has so much invested, why he's invested so much on Fowler is beyond me. I mean, it's beyond me. I mean, if you go and look, one of my mates fought Anthony Fowler, Craig O'Brien. He took that fight on 5 days' notice, and he was doing well in that fight. He was doing very well in the early rounds. Obviously, not taking a fight on 5 days' notice against someone like Fowler is not a good idea, but say la vie, he was doing very well. So Anthony Fowler, yeah, I think Scott Fitzgerald beats Anthony Fowler again. But it'd be interesting to see. So that's my thoughts on this. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please leave a like. Obviously, subscribe if you're new. And as always, I will talk to you after.